just taken the dinghy out for a little explore up the coast, and we found this little river. It's got amazing mangroves. They're really big, well-developed mangroves. We're on a rising tide, so that's not so bad. There's some little buildings and whatnot. There might be a little village further up, we're going to find out. But it's lovely and flat. Has been raining, it might rain, but never mind. It's pretty cool.
So we're coming up to a turning. We've got a rope bridge going across one section of the river. It's a fork in the river. We've got to make decisions. Where do we go? Dinghies. Life without them as a cruiser is pretty much impossible. So in this episode, we're going to do a little overview of the different types of dinghies and touch on outboards suitable for cruisers. So to set the scene, we're going off on a little journey up the mangroves with Graham and Magda of Artemis 3.
Oh, mangroves. I love mangroves. They're the lungs of the world. They provide nutrients. They look after the crabs and the little fish. You can get all kinds of things. They're special animals that live only in mangroves.
I go straight from the bank, gassing up the tank. I'm cranking up the radio, playing old Hank, and it ain't that long till I'm back at the pond. I'm pulling up the truck down at the dock. It's time to do some cruising, baby, get a little stuck. It's a Saturday joyride, Percy Priest is the spot.
Well, we've come a little bit further up the river. There's no more, according to satellite, there's no more villages here. And we're just surrounded on both sides by mangrove. And we're both, all of us, saying that the mangrove just looks really healthy and thick and dense. And some of those trees look quite old as well. A cruiser's dinghy is their car. You really need one to get about and to do the shopping, do all the things that you need when you go from your anchorage to land. Yeah, sure, you can do it on a paddleboard, you can do it on a kayak, but a dinghy is what you really need, and you need a good one. We're going to go through now some of the dinghies we've had in the past and some of the types of dinghies out there.
Yeah, there's a plethora of articles and videos on dinghies, so this is really just an overview, and we're going to talk from our experience. So I guess the first one we should mention, which is kind of slightly outside the box, I suppose, is the porter boat.
Yeah.
The porter boat is made of high impact polypropylene copolymer, and this basically means that it's indestructible.
Yep.
You can tie it up anywhere and it's not going to get punctured. Also, the great thing is that you can fold it up, and it doesn't take up much room on the deck. The only issue we found with it was that once you start loading it up with shopping and fuel jerry cans, it starts to sink, and it doesn't really take on big waves that well.
Well, it does, they just come in the dinghy.
Yes. So we also had a PVC. Do you remember that? Our first, the Blancmange?
The Blancmange.
PVC dinghies. PVC is polyvinyl chloride, and the advantages are that it's cheap, it's lightweight, it's easy to repair. You can either glue it or thermobond it, and it comes in lots of colours. But of course, PVC does have some disadvantages as well. It's not resistant to abrasion, it doesn't handle extreme temperatures, it's not UV resistant, which basically means that it deteriorates quite quickly. Now, the other kind of plastic rubber that is a better alternative, of course, is Hypalon. Hypalon is a trademark of DuPont synthetic rubber. It's hard wearing, it's resistant to abrasion, it's UV resistant, it's oil and diesel resistant, it doesn't get brittle like PVC does, and it's easy to repair with the right glue. Of course, there are some disadvantages as well. It's expensive, it can get dirty because it's porous, repairing can take time, and the colour can fade.
Other tenders include things like a Walker Bay, which is a high impact injection moulded dinghy.
You can sail that one as well.
You can, I mean, they're great little things. There are wooden dinghies, some of them are collapsible, so you can chop them in half and fold them onto the deck.
The point we should make here is that we are talking about dinghies that are preferable for offshore cruising. If you're just a coastal day cruiser, then you might find a wooden dinghy that you row is much more preferable to a more expensive inflatable.
Yes, but of course the really big one we see around here, as we're quite close to Australia in many ways, is the tinny, the good old-fashioned tinny. Loads of our friends have them.
Yeah, they're crocodile proof. That's why so many Aussies have tinnies.
Yeah.
It's because they are pretty much the only dinghy you can use in Australia. Of course, some of the disadvantages with a lot of these dinghies is storage.
Yeah.
They can be difficult to stow. The problem we have on our boat with so much rigging, the only place we can stow a dinghy if it's not on the davits is on the back deck, and we have to deflate it.
Yeah.
So that is something that you do have to consider. Now, we mentioned rowing. Some people prefer to row. So if you're going to do that, try and avoid flat bottom dinghies. Our Blancmange had a flat
Hopeless,
bottom.
yeah.
You try rowing in that, you just end up rowing around in circles. But it's a great way of keeping fit.
Yeah.
So if you are going to row, make sure you get wooden oars are the best, and they should be at least 6 foot long, maybe longer. So the longer the oars, the more efficient they are. But for a lot of us, of course, we need faster dinghies, which basically means that we can anchor further away, and this can be advantageous in a busy anchorage. The advantage we have, we now have a 10 horsepower Tohatsu 2-stroke. It basically means that we can anchor anywhere.
Yeah, so we're not in the shallows, and when the wind comes in, we're not going to be hit by other boats because we're that bit further away. The other thing with the big outboard is that we can go for long journeys on it and do real proper explorations.
Perhaps most importantly, though, is that it will potentially get you out of trouble if you have an issue with your boat, if your engine breaks down in the middle of leaving an anchorage, for example, which is what has happened to us in the past. Then having a bigger inflatable with a bigger engine does mean that you could potentially tow your boat out of trouble. Just very quickly on outboards, in Asia we can still get 2-stroke, which the advantage of 2-stroke is that they are much easier to repair. There's plenty of places that can overhaul a 2-stroke, whereas 4-strokes are a little bit more complex, although they are more efficient, of course. The other advantage of a 2-stroke is that they are lighter, and I think that's perhaps the most important consideration. Don't
we
you
had to think about something that we could pull up on a regular basis.
To conclude, as long-term cruisers like ourselves, we've found that the best dinghy really is something that performs well, is pretty fast, and has an outboard to match that you can manage.
Yeah, and you have to be able to stow it either on deck or from the davits, preferably both, easily. To be honest, it doesn't really get much better than this. A perfect secret little bar on the beach, an enormous beach with completely clean white sand, beautiful trees giving us a nice bit of shade here, a good bar doing great cocktails for less than £2 each, nice food, good pizzas, not too many people here. It's very easy just to while away a few days. I think this is why we do it, really.
There's a party on the water, it's a hell of a time. We're on a boat, we're killing time. Hell of a time. It's a hell of a time. Oh, hell of a time.